Okay, so today we're going to look at an underfloor heating system and how to replace the blend valve. Now there's various types. This is a new heat system and it's probably 2009, something like that. So it's got the stainless steel rail. Now underfloor heating systems are quite new to me, but understand this to a level now. Had a few problems with it since buying the property. Quite simply, it's a flow and return like on any standard heating system, but rather than going through radiators, it goes through the floor. So this started to leak through the drips. So it's not something which is turned very often, and with the lime scale in the area, it's caused a problem. So I wanted to have a look at replacing that. Now ordered a spare part from New Heat directly. It arrived next day, which is fantastic. So I've just done this repair already, but I'm going to talk you through kind of how it works. So even though the system shows on the end as being about 1 bar of pressure, which is perfect for underfloor, the system was balanced when it was installed and seems to be okay. I had to replace one of the heads here. They don't do these heads anymore, but John Guest actually do exactly the same product, and the heads are interchangeable anyway. So even though they have a slightly different collar underneath, which this actually unscrews, this one just appears to cover it rather than sit above it like the New Heat versions. Ultimately does the same thing, and it's the same as a John Guest system. Obviously just a standard product which is branded, and it was wired into the thermostat box here, which goes to each room individually and gives a supply. Now I've just replaced this, and I've just put on one zone to cool. So there's 2 zones here for the lounge, and the water is coming through and going through these actuators on the return. So one thing that I found was that these pipes don't get very hot very quickly on the return. The flows get hot quite quickly. But on investigating it, even though, because they're quite long pipes, they can take anything depending on the zone and how they've been balanced. Can take up to sort of 4 hours before this starts to get hot, when the hot water starts pushing through the return. But it's not a problem at all anyway, because these heads just really focus on the control for the thermostat in the room to turn it on and off. So as long as you've got hot water going through the flow, the returns aren't as important for the temperature coming back, as long as your floor's heating up. If it's not heating up, then the chances are it could be an air bubble in this pipe here, which is the return. So I was quite concerned that obviously with pressure being in this, like any heating system, that if you were to take out a working part into the pipe, that you'd get a lot of water leakage and potential the same as anything else. But with these systems it's slightly different. So even though I turned off the butterfly, so the flow and returns here, there's still 1 bar of pressure in the system. But when I undid this head here, which is just the dial, behind it sits, I'm going to get this out of the bag. And there are various types. You need to have a look at the model of this, because this is the head unit which has the direct pump feed. There are others which have like a traditional TRV head, so make sure you're getting the right insert. There are 3 or 4 available. So when speaking to New Heat, they ascertained that this was the part I needed. Now, strangely, when you undo this, you do get some water leakage, but not very much, and you certainly don't get a pressure drop. That's about the amount of water that came out while I was replacing it. And at first I thought there was a black O-ring or a washer on here, but it wasn't. It was just really dirt. So the other one just screw in. It's got a fresh O-ring on it. The O-ring on here is obviously very corroded, but the leak was coming through the centre pin here and leaking out of the side. So a quick simple was about £30 this replacement, but straight out, water drained out, which took 3 or 4 seconds, and I say it's only about a small cup's worth, and you can wind the other one in. Now when you wind the other one in and do it up tight, open up the butterfly valves, interesting, the pressure has remained the same. Now that's because, and I'm guessing that these systems work I've got an unvented system in the airing cupboard, which has radiators upstairs, so the pressure that I'm putting through the boiler and the unvented system is also applying the same pressure to this underfloor heating. Now that's kind of the bit where I thought you'd probably get wet if I was going to take out this open valve, take that out while it was under pressure. But I think because it's balanced and these 2 valves are closed, there's very little to come back, because the actuator heads are down. Make sure these are closed when you're doing this repair, otherwise you will have water wanting to cycle around and come through the bottom rail and straight out here. So as long as these heads are down and you've turned off the call for any heat in any room, Your balancing valves you don't need to touch anyway. When you've turned off this, the system kind of just sits under its own pressure, and you can work on this quite comfortably without getting wet, should we say. The other point being is that with these actuator heads, and if I lift one off here which isn't being used, they just pop off. I won't get my fingers behind it, they're quite hard when they're not under tension. Here, so you can see how they fit on, now they're interchangeable. Now this pin section, if you wanted to change that in here, you can absolutely do so as well, again without getting wet. Apply the same rules with the valves being closed and the butterflies as well, and you can remove this piece because sometimes the pins do go faulty. So a spanner on there, drop a new one in and do it back up. So there's actually quite a lot of maintenance you can do on this system without any cause for a drain down, which is fantastic. And other than that, when you look at the system itself, there's a bleed valve here which I'll do in a couple of minutes once the air's been circulating around the system, having obviously put some air into it when I replaced the balancing valve. Drain the air out to the top here just like on a standard radiator. But it's quite simple really. These are very unlikely to go wrong. The pipe work's unlikely to go wrong. And once the system's been balanced by winding these in and out, there's very little to do. The actuators I would suggest are probably the main fault area when they wear out. The simple 2-wire, there's 2 and 4-wire versions. The 2-wire version straight into the box. And if you're careful when you turn obviously the electrics off, as it says on here, it's just a straight replacement like for like with an electrical screwdriver. So I replaced this within probably 2 or 3 minutes, and this took me, blimey, I would have videoed it if I thought about how simple it was going to be, but it was literally undo this with an Allen key, slide off the 2 collars, undo it with a spanner, and yeah, a little bit of water came out and a new one went in. So that's an underfloor heating system by New Heat. I looked on the internet to see how to replace this, and there was no one that had posted a video on how to replace that. Now, can't imagine it goes wrong very often, but because of limescale, when you do turn it once in a few years, then I'm guessing the result will be that you are going to have some sort of a drip appearing, and it was producing quite a lot of water. This is how much water was leaking out of that since this morning, so that was probably about 5 or 6 hours worth of water. So there's a considerable amount if you haven't got a bucket under there, which is going to cause you problems, so worth replacing as soon as you can. Temperature's rising now nicely, and under return as well, that's increasing. So the flow pipes are very hot. That one, that hot, that return is quite warm now. This one's still cold. So I shall check the floor to make sure it's fully warm in about an hour's time. If not, I'll probably end up closing living room 2 and force some more pressure through this down, just in case there's any air blocks. I've checked the head and the pin is very free, so it shouldn't be a problem there. And I'll say I'll bleed any air out that I may have put into the system by replacing the thermostat a little while ago. I hope you find that useful, because I did, and I had to learn it the hard way. So thanks for watching.